Hello, Sebas. I'm going to talk about soccer and football, and I have done a couple of highlights as you can see. So, people who speak English as a second language should know that there is a difference between these two words, especially for people who speak in American English accent, because these two words have a different meanings, and it depends on which country are you are or which accent are you speaking to. For example, in America or in United States, they use soccer to identify one sport, and this sport is called football in British, and the football in America is the American football. So my presentation should be to identify the difference between these two sports. So first of all, in the 1974, American created football. They created football based on rugby. That at this time, the British created rugby and American based football on the basic rules of rugby. But in the 1974, the most important schools in United States, Harvard and Yale, changed a couple of rules because in the beginning football was able to play 18 players and they changed it to 11. They also created the word touchdown, and touchdown is when the player ran past the 100 yards and he scores. So there is a touchdown. And in the early 16th, the British created football, and they based the football. They started playing at the public schools, at the parks, at the universities, and they started being really famous, and people start to like it. And in the 70s, there was a couple of teams that started playing in a league, but it was not a major league. And the first official match that was registered was in the 80s, in the 1843. So there was the first match in the history of soccer. There is also a huge difference between these two sports. The rules. For example, in football, the players, and there's also a coincidence. In football, in American football, the players most of the time use only the hands to pass the ball and to make a touchdown, but they also kick the ball. When they do a penalty, they put the ball on the grass and they kick it. And there is also a pass. When you are at the back in the first yards, you should take the ball, kick the ball, and go fast. But in soccer, the players only use their feet. They only are kicking the ball, except for the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is the only player that could use the hands. So there is also a similarity between these sports, but is also a difference, as I say. When the year passed, these two sports become one of the most important sports in the world, and also the most famous sport in the world. For example, American football has these huge events that is appear once a year. It's called the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl is basic the final of the two best teams in the year. And the interesting thing about Super Bowl is that a lot of people is seeing the Super Bowl. For example, this year, 2016, the Super Bowl was the third with more views in the history, average 111.8 million TV views. But soccer, they have another popular event. They're called the World Cup. The World Cup is only past 4 years, and the last one was in 2014 in Brazil. So the World Cup basic raised the most powerful countries in the world. And the interesting fact of the World Cup was at the last one in 2014 in Brazil, there was almost a billion people average viewing the final Germany versus Argentina. So it was a record. That's a huge difference between soccer and football. The other thing is like soccer is playing not only in one country, it's playing in all over the world, especially Latin America and Europe. But there is also another continent that used to play soccer. For example, Asia, Africa, and all of these continents and all of these countries, they have a major league. So soccer is eventually the most popular sport in the world. And football, there is only one major league, or maybe two, because it's in America and Canada. But the most famous is the NLF, the National Football League, and there's only playing in the United States. Another difference is that is not an Olympic sport. Soccer, it is an Olympic sport. So as you can see, these two words have a lot of different meanings and specify two different sports, but it depends in which country are you or in which accent are you speaking, because in British they only use football, and in America they use soccer and football. So there is a huge difference, and that's all.